Good morning and welcome to our Sunday morning service. There are so many ways to become an active participant in our vibrant faith community, and we would love to help you connect with our congregation in ways that feed your spirit and bring you joy. If you would like to set up a time to explore possibilities and learn more about how to become a member, please contact me, Tina Lewis, at tlewis@unitytemple.org. I'm happy to meet with you in person, on Zoom, or by phone. You may also fill out a visitor form on our website at www.unitytemple.org or stop by the welcome table in the foyer after service to talk with a volunteer and fill out a form there. Whether you are joining us in person or online, we are so glad you're here and we hope you have a meaningful experience.
Good morning. My name is Terry Kinsey. My pronouns are he and him. I'm also one of the facilitators of our UU Buddhist meditation group called the Mindful Reflection Community. We meet every day, 7 days a week online from 8:25 till 9. We meet on Tuesday evenings from 7 until 9, and we meet the first Saturday of every month in Thatcher Woods, no matter the weather conditions, from 8:30 till 10:30. It's great to see all of you here today. I have one announcement that was unable to get into the e-beacon because it came up relatively quickly. There's going to be a rally tomorrow in Elmhurst called Hate Has No Place in Illinois. Governor Ron DeSantis is coming to talk to the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police. And at 3:30 tomorrow, hosted by the Unitarian Universalist Advocacy Network of Illinois, the Equality Illinois, the Indivisible and the Illinois National Organization for Women, as well as our own LGBTQ+ reproductive gender faith and action team, will be meeting there at 3:30 for a rally for Hate Has No Home Here. So if you'd like to join us, please do so. You can find out more information on Facebook through either Equality or Indivisible, or see me, and I'll be glad to give you more information. It's my privilege also to introduce Reverend Suzelle Lynch, who will be our minister this morning. Reverend Lynch, pronouns are she, her, has been a UU minister for 28 years, serving congregations in Wisconsin, Washington, California, and Texas. Lost my line. She is a graduate of Starr King School of the Ministry, a co-founder of Black Lives Matter for Wisconsin UUs, a mom, and an aspiring opera singer. Prior to ministry, Reverend Suzelle was a communication professional for a robot company, an artificial language laboratory, and a big corporate conglomerate. For fun, she writes songs, hikes, makes hats, designs labyrinths, and does upcycle sewing. I want to ask her about that. Now semi-retired, Suzelle lives in Janesville, Wisconsin, with her fiance, Tom Ness. With Reverend Suzelle today, via video, is her friend, Brad the dad.
Good morning, everyone. I am clearly not Aisha Ellis. I am Ed McDevitt, who announced a few weeks ago that I was giving my last board greeting at that time. I have briefly unretired like Tom Brady without the money. So let me, before I begin, let me say that in the foyer, out in the foyer here, you'll see a large card to sign. It is for, to commemorate the passing of Reverend Dennis Buskowski of United Lutheran, who passed away a couple of weeks ago, I think, in Pennsylvania, if I remember correctly. But Dennis was a very kind host to us when we were away from Unity Temple for 2 years. And he had been ill for quite some time, and he passed away, I'm sorry to say. So, board greeting, good morning. My name is Ed McDevitt. As I said, my pronouns are he, him, and I serve on your Board of Trustees until the end of this month. It is my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. While masks are no longer required, we do still recommend them as a way to protect each other. If you are here for the first time, thank you for joining us. We look forward to getting to know you, and we invite everyone present in the sanctuary today to join our in-person community time immediately following the service. Each week we remind ourselves of our congregation's core values: connection, transformation, justice, and acceptance. Our mission is to embody these core values in our daily lives by welcoming all, inspiring compassion, nurturing wonder, and serving community. Welcoming all means we work together to foster a culture of radical hospitality. Here in this community, we build relationships with people across boundaries of race, class, and other identities. We're so glad you're here with us today. We hope you find the service inspiring and meaningful. And I invite you now to take a moment to greet one another both online and in the sanctuary.
Good morning. I'm Margaret Swisher, the music director here. I usually don't speak before the choir sings, but today we're going to present something in Latin, and you don't have a translation in front of you, and I want you to know what it is all about. It's built on a Gregorian chant called Ubi Caritas, and the words for this anthem is, where charity and love are, the Spirit of God is present. The love of God has gathered us together. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let us revere and love a living God. And from a sincere heart, let us love one another.
Our chalice lighter this morning is Gwen. Gwen loves to dance, sing, and do gymnastics. Please join me in the words of our chalice lighting. We are Unitarian Universalists. This is the church of the open mind, loving hearts, and helping hands. We take care of the planet Earth and each other.
Good morning. It's good to be with you here today. I just want to give one little correction. It's my son, not me, who's the aspiring opera singer. Our opening words for today are adapted from my friend and colleague, the Reverend Erica Hewitt. As we enter into worship, put away the pressures of the world that ask us to perform, to put on a brave front. Shush those voices that ask you to be perfect. In this community of compassion, you do not have to do anything to earn love and welcome. You don't have to be any braver, smarter, or stronger than you are at this very moment. Simply bring the gift of your body, your seeking mind, your heart, be it broken or healing or whole. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your journey, wherever you are in the world, you're welcome here. Come, let us worship together. Come, let us celebrate.
Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Good morning. I'm Diana Coates, and I'm a member of our spiritual care team. We are a team that is available to you during difficult times, and we provide spiritual support, presence, prayer, and whatever seems to be needed at that time. You may identify us by our blue hearts on our name tag, and you may contact us at unitytemple.org. It's the time in the service when we share our joys and sorrows, as love is the doctrine of this congregation. Sharing our joys and sorrows is one of the ways. Oops, I'm thinking I might have forgotten something coming up here. I might have to put a pause. This is to show you again how human we are in this church. Only in this church would you get a clap for that. But you know, it's a senior moment. Any case, back to serious business here. And it is a serious business, and I love this part of our service. And love is the doctrine of this congregation. Sharing our joys and sorrows is one of the ways we embody love, building the container of community and connection in which we live our mission. For those who have attended in person today, there was an opportunity to sign the binder, which is in the lobby. And usually one of the pastoral associates, Blue Heart, are standing there so they can help you. If you should write in the binder, just be sure to put your name on it too. Someone from our team will be there to help you. For those online, you may enter your joys and sorrows now, and we will share them in the next service. You may still email your joys and sorrows to joysandsorrows@Unity Temple, and always include your name. Today's joys and sorrows are prayers for Melissa Van Kles. Her son, Isaiah Rodriguez, 26 years old, was shot and killed on the 8th of February, and his funeral is today. And that's from Dawn Rose, who shared that this morning with me. She's here. Christine Steyer, she has thanks to all the efforts of the congregation to support reunification of her and her mother, as her mother enters these final days. We want to hold the people in Syria and in Turkey in our prayers as well. And we have a wonderful celebration of 89 years. Alan, where are you? There he is, for 89 years on Friday. I have a reading, which I'll read at the end of the ritual. Our sanctuary is filled with unspoken joys and sorrows, and I invite anyone with a joy or sorrow on their mind to come forward and silently drop a stone into the bowl of water. The bowl represents the container we create in this worship place, and the water represents our community within this sacred space. The stones mingle our joys and sorrows and represent how life is made up of so many emotions and feelings. Here we work to create a beloved community as we bring our whole complex selves and share with each other. So we will sing Spirit of Life, which is in your program, and If you have a joy or a sorrow you'd like to share, come up the side aisles and return probably the side aisles because there's something in the middle aisle. So just come up as you're moved when the music starts. And please sing, continue singing till everybody has had an opportunity to come up. Thank you. So take a deep breath as we enter a time of reflection and contemplation. Just see how you're breathing. Just notice for a minute. And this is a reading from Lazu about compassion. With compassion towards yourself, you reconcile all beings in the world. At first, we might ask, how can being compassionate to yourself reconcile all beings in the world? To understand the gift of this, we need to recall the analogy of the spoked wheel, in which each life is separate and unique, and yet each unique spoke represents all of our lives. Like those spokes meet in common hub or a center. That's why when we tend to our deepest center, we care for all souls. Another powerful way to realize our interconnectedness is to imagine the human family as a stand of aspens growing by the river. Though each tree appears to be growing independently, not attached to the others, beneath the soil, out of view, the roots of all the trees exist as one enormous root. And so, like these trees, our soul's growth, while appearing to be independent, is intimately connected to the health of those around us. For our spirits are entwined at the center, out of view. Once realizing this, it becomes clear that we have no choice but to embrace the health of our neighbors as part of our own health. If we are aware of our own suffering with the wish to relieve it, we will overcome distrust and reestablish close relationships with all other living things in deep and lasting ways. When we heal ourselves, we heal the world. For as the body is only as healthy as its individual cells, the world only as healthy as its individual souls. Across the centuries, we have this timeless medicine. Live directly, wait, and care for your soul as if it was the whole world, because it is. Namaste. Blessed be.
Hi again, everybody, especially if you are a young person here. I'm Reverend Suzelle, and actually the request was that kids stay with parents today. But if you're on your way down, you can come and sit in the front rows. That might be kind of fun. The reason why we're asking you to stay with your moms and dads is because we're going to sing a song in a moment, and we want your moms and dads to help you. So, today's service is about love, and so because of that, I want to tell you a story about one of our Unitarian Universalist ancestors who taught us about the kind of love that works to help change our world for the better. That ancestor's name is Malvina Reynolds, and she was born in the year 1900. So how old would she be today if she was born in the year 1900? Who knows? Who can do that math? It's easy math. Shout it out if you know. Yeah, 123. She lived in San Francisco, California with her parents, and her parents were Jewish, and they had come to the United States from Russia and Hungary. Even when she was a little girl, Malvina loved stories, and she would tell stories. She would just open her mouth, and stories would just pour out. Is anybody else around here like that? Anybody like to tell stories? Like to tell your parents what happened during the day? Like to tell your partner, your spouse, or your kids what you've been up to? I like to tell stories. Her stories were about animals or children or about making the world a better place. And sometimes they were just fun stories from her imagination, but they were always interesting. At school, everybody thought Malvina was a troublemaker because she was always speaking out against things she thought were unfair. For example, the boys were allowed to go outside during lunch, and the girls had to stay inside. Who thinks that's fair? Who thinks that's unfair? Totally unfair. Malvina actually experienced a lot of unfairness in her own life. For example, because her parents were socialists and they were against World War I, her high school would not give her her diploma. Who thinks that's unfair? Yeah, me too. So when she grew up, Malvina became a social worker and a political activist, and she became a mom. And she started to make her stories into songs. Her songs were nearly always about the need to speak up for what you think is right, or about the need to work for a world of peace and justice. She wrote songs about people in our country who were oppressed or downtrodden, and she upheld the importances of differences and diversity. One of her famous songs is called Little Boxes. Anybody here remember the song Little Boxes? Yeah. Which talks about how our society wants us all to be exactly the same. Consumer culture says, buy the same things, want the same things, be the same. Don't show who you really are. Don't be who you really are. Malvina wrote songs to help many important causes. She wrote them for a group called Women for Peace, for the Nestle boycott, for the anti-war movement in San Francisco, and for the fight to stop that city from putting a freeway through the beautiful natural Golden Gate Park. She worked for other causes too, and she liked singing her songs in Unitarian Universalist congregations because she knew that we shared many of her values. And eventually, she joined a Unitarian church in Berkeley, California. Her most famous song is one for children called Magic Penny. Who knows that song? You know that song? Yeah. We're going to sing it with words on the screen. It's a simple song. It's a catchy song, but it has a really big message, and I'm going to say something to you about it after we sing. So let's give it a try. Have we got our first words up? We do. Okay, join with me. Love is something if you give it away. Give it away. Give it away. Love is something if you give it away. You end up having more. It's just like a magic penny. Hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend and spend it and you'll have so many. They'll roll all over the floor. For love is something if you give it away. Give it away. Give it away. Love is something if you give it away. You'll end up having more. Money's dandy and we like to use it, but love is better if you don't refuse it. we go. If you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something, if you give it away, you'll end up having more. So did you like those pictures of Malvina that you saw on the screen there? Obviously, she got older and she really liked ice cream. Anybody else here like ice cream? Yeah, me too. So let's talk a little bit about love. Love is something, if you give it away, you end up having more. And as Unitarian Universalists, we know that our caring and generosity toward other folks always gives us a lot in return. So here's my request of you. The next time you find a penny, or somebody gives you a penny, pay attention to the magic in that penny. Is that penny reminding you to give love to somebody around you? Is it reminding you maybe to do something good for another person or to act for peace and justice like Malvina Reynolds did? Because that's love too. And guess what? In exactly 93 days, something very special is happening on May 23rd. Can anybody guess? It's my son's birthday, for one thing. But it's Magic Penny Day, National Magic Penny Day on May 23rd. I wonder how much love we can give away between now and Magic Penny Day. If we do it every day, that's 93 acts of love. On May 23rd, I hope that you will remember and celebrate all the love that you have given and the love that you have received. Thank you for being good listeners to my story. I hope you'll remember Malvina and the Magic Penny. And I want to invite kids who are heading out to religious education to go forth now as we sing. Thank you. That was so beautiful. Love perseveres. To persevere, we know, means to be steadfast. It means continuing our efforts in spite of obstacles or difficulties or delays. And today we're talking about how love perseveres. A sermon inspired by the monthly theme, of course, but also by last week's Valentine's Day. But you know, when I was researching, I learned that there are very few real facts out there, as if there's any other kind of fact, right? And very few facts out there about Saint Valentine, the icon who supposedly inspired Valentine's Day. He supposedly performed quick marriage ceremonies for couples in the 3rd century so that the husbands wouldn't be drafted into the Roman army, which was sure death back then. But it's not fact, it's just legend. And it's the only one of the legends about St. Valentine that has actually anything to do with love. It wasn't until the 14th century that the whole Valentine's love thing revved up, and that was due to Gregory Chaucer. I'm sure some of you had to read Chaucer if you were in college. Yeah, Gregory Chaucer, Geoffrey Chaucer, and his cronies invented most of the traditions in the 14th century that have freighted Valentine's Day with romantic love ever since. But you know, I really like holidays that are about love because every single one of us needs to be loved and we need to give love. Brain science would remind us that the need for love is actually hardwired into us human beings. The need to connect emotionally with one another evolved along with the limbic system in our brains, because it helps us survive as a species. And there are so many ways to love, so many kinds of love. We start learning to love when we're tiny babies, when we first begin to grasp that our mother or other primary caregiver is separate from us, and we find out that we and this other can please each other and hurt each other. And so we are tender to be able to bond and thrive. Other family relationships tutor us in intimacy, and if we're loved well enough, we learn to love ourselves and to trust the world enough to soften our boundaries a little so that giving and receiving love beyond that first circle becomes possible. And then when we're in childhood, the love we call friendship opens our eyes and it opens our hearts as well. Teenage love. Anybody remember teenage love? Blah, lifts off like a skyrocket, woo! And when it comes crashing down to earth, we emerge a bit wiser in the ways of love. Committed partnerships, parenting perhaps, encourage us to transform romantic love into an abiding set of actions that one writer called stirring the oatmeal love. Isn't that a great image? Stirring the oatmeal. And of course, we also love through our work and our play and in the way Professor Cornel West described when he said, justice is what love looks like in public, just as tenderness is what love feels like in private. So some years back, quite a few years back, my friend Robert Fulgham wanted to find out more about our human need to love and be loved. Fulgham, as you might recall, wrote a famous book, a really famous book. Anybody know the title? Shout it out. Right, all I really needed to know I learned in kindergarten. It was super popular in the 1980s and the early 1990s. Fulgham is also a Unitarian minister, and I got to know him when he spent a semester at Star King School, my seminary, as a minister in residence. So Fulgham decided to collect love stories into a book. Book's out there if you want to read it. So he went out into the coffee shops of his city of Seattle, and he set up a sign on his table that said, "Tell me a love story and I'll buy you a cup of coffee and make you famous. When people first saw his sign, they rolled their eyes and laughed, or they groaned. But how often do we really have the opportunity to tell our story to somebody who really wants to hear it? People of all kinds gathered around Fulgham's table to tell and to hear love stories. So think for a moment. If you came across Fulgham and his sign at your local coffee shop, what love story would you tell him? Would it be a story of romantic love, lost love, maybe that stirring the oatmeal love? Would it be a story of love for the earth that has led you to make significant sacrifices in your life? Perhaps you'd tell the story of the loving parent who drove you to your music lessons and patiently listened to you playing the scales week after week after week after week. Or maybe the story of your sibling who let you borrow their brand new bike. Or perhaps you tell a story of love's steadfastness in the face of difficulty, a story of how love perseveres. That's the story our Universalist ancestors would tell. They believed that the love of the holy, God's love, could face down all difficulty, and that there is a love that encompasses all humanity. This was radical in their day, 18th and 19th centuries. The Universalist Calvinist neighbors shouted, "This universal love thing is a terrible idea. People won't be good because of love. They're only good because of fear of God's judgment and punishment. We're supposed to motivate us to moral living." But even in the face of persecution, the Universalist perseveres. They took to heart the religious commandment to love God by loving their neighbors. They loved by working against slavery, by helping establish the American Red Cross, by creating and sustaining settlement houses that aided immigrants in the early 1900s. They also joined in the fight for women's rights and for workers' rights. They are the models, along with their Unitarian siblings, for our social justice engagement today. So if I ran into Robert Fulgham in a coffee shop with his request for love stories, I think the story I would tell him is the story of my friend Brad the Dad. Brad the Dad is my preaching partner this morning, and we'll hear from him in a moment. But first, I want to introduce him to you by using some of the words from the sermon he gave for my former congregation in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Here are Brad's words. Picture a child born to a single mother who is addicted to crack cocaine and alcohol. Her every waking moment is consumed by an incessant hunger and search for the next high. She has utter disregard for this child. His basic needs are at war with the merciless enemy, crack, and only one desire can be fulfilled. The child loses every time. There is no father. Often, there are no lights, no heat or hot water, no food, no clean clothes, no structure or rules, no love, attention, or affection. There's only crack smoke, empty beer cans, and strange men coming and going at all times of the day and night. And if the child cries from hunger or lack of sleep, he's fed punches to the face to shut him up. Picture this child not learning to read until he's 9 years old. Feel the bite of cold, hard steel around his tiny wrists, the loneliness, fear, confusion, and sadness of being locked in jail for trying to protect a mother who cursed the day he was born. Imagine a child who wanted to be Superman, who wanted to be a lawyer or policeman who dreamed of these things, who dreamed of his mother loving him and his daddy being home, and instead he's a ward of the state, thrown into a cell and left alone to cry. Honestly, says Brad the dad, ask yourselves, what possible future could this child really have? Would it surprise anyone that this child answered the call of the most basic human instinct, self-preservation, and took to the streets? We are all aware of the statistics concerning fatherless black children born in poverty. So, he says, imagine the surprise of this child who is now an adult in a prison cell, watching a crowd of black and white people marching together through the streets on television, professing Black Lives Matter. I was beyond shocked at the sight. I thought it was some kind of hoax. I've been black my whole life, and all that time my life has never mattered. The lives of little black boys and little black girls who lived in the same nightmare as me never mattered. And my son, whose life I would give my life to save, hasn't mattered to anyone. Feeling frustrated and angry, I asked myself, who are these black lives everyone claims to matter? Well, it was my congregation and me that Brad saw on the TV news that day. It was 2016. And we were marching to protest the dismissal of charges against a police officer named Joseph Mensah, who shot and killed Jay Anderson Jr., an innocent young black man. It's a terribly familiar story, right? We know this story. Brad copied my name from the TV screen, and he wrote to me. He said, does my black life matter? Does my son's black life matter? Or is it just the black lives who are dead? He asked me to put time and energy into helping the black men, women, and children who are alive. Of course, my congregation and I were doing things to help living people. One of the things was working with a community organizing group on prison reform. But Brad's question, is it only the black lives who are dead that matter? It was a bucket of cold water in my face. And Brad and I began writing to each other. And then, like the good minister I am, I wondered if maybe my church could help Brad in bigger ways than I could manage alone. I turned to my wonderful, wonderful social action committee for help, and everything went downhill from there. Let me use Brad's words again. Brad said, Suzelle talked to some people on a committee at the church to see if more help than hers alone could be offered to me. These people wanted to know why I was in prison. Was I a rapist? What? The committee people wanted to know if I was a scammer. These people didn't know me, didn't care to know me, didn't ask if they could speak with me or meet me or my son. Eerily reminiscent of slave culture and a true example of unconscious racial bias, they were only interested in speaking with another white person, a social worker, a prison official, speaking with them about me, who in their mind would reveal the true content of my character. I felt supremely disrespected and insulted, and I planned to cut all ties with Suzelle. When I received his angry letter, I knew I was in over my head, and I turned to a member of my congregation for help. That member, Lynn, and her husband, Mark, had relationships with several incarcerated men through the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Larger Fellowship, through a program that's now called Worthy Now. Some of you probably know about Worthy Now. It's the Prison Pen Pal program of the CLF. And it invites people on both sides of prison walls to enter into and make beloved community together. And it tutors those of us outside prison walls in the ways of compassion and dignity for everyone. So Lynn and Mark began writing to Brad and visiting him. And at first, the relationship was rocky because Brad wasn't sure he could trust Lynn. Everybody else had let him down. Why would she be any different? But Lynn treated Brad with respect. She recognized something that I had completely missed. Brad wasn't seeking charity. Brad didn't want help. He wanted honest relationship. He wanted a loving friendship. Lynn and Mark never othered Brad or questioned his motives. They opened their hearts to him in friendship. Brad says their love changed his life, and they say his love changed their lives as well. 3 years ago, I came back into Brad's life, and now my fiance, Tom, and I are good friends with him and with his teenage son, who is a hardworking, kind young guy trying to make his way in life, find his way in life without most of the things you and I probably take for granted. We visit Brad when we can. We take his son with us. We call and we write often. Prison communications, by the way, cost so much more money than you would imagine. And most of the fees are charged to the person who's incarcerated. In addition, prison officials can monitor our phone calls, our letters, our emails at any time. In Brad's reflection, you'll actually hear an electronic voice break in, reminding us of that very thing. And yet, despite it all and through it all, there is a love that perseveres. So I invite you to hear it now from my friend Brad.
My son was born while I was in the county jail. He's my only child. I never held him as a baby, never changed his diaper, never made him a bottle, never fed, bathed, or clothed him, no matter how strongly I desired to. He was in the courtroom when the judge sentenced me to 25 years in prison, but he wouldn't remember it. He was only 9 months old, and I was only 19 years old, but a part of me died that day. Shortly after I was sentenced, I received a Dear John letter from the girl I had hoped and planned to spend the rest of my life with. I loved her more than life itself. She said our love was ending and her life was beginning with another man. A part of me died that day. Months later, I called home only to discover that a childhood friend of mine, Paco, had been killed by a childhood friend of his. Then my friend JJ got killed by his friend. Then Lil Terry got killed by his friend. Then Scrub was killed during the armed robbery. Then Lil Mark was shot in the head while using the payphone. Then Nemo was found dead in the cart at a gas station. Then my friend Baldhead Nut got killed over a parking spot. Then T-Mac, then T.Y., and Black were all killed. Then Starsky was robbed and killed by his own nephew. Each time I learned of one of my friends' deaths, another part of me died. The Wisconsin Supermax prison is a 23 hours a day locked down solitary confinement facility. When I was incarcerated there, I had a subscription to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel to stay current with what's going on in the world. I was thumbing through the pages one day when I saw a picture of my cousin Nene, who was like a big sister to me, in the obituary section. I was shocked and confused because I had just used my last phone call to talk to her. And Supermax, we were allowed one 15-minute call per month. But that's how I learned Nene was dead. And a part of me died that day. Each time I wrote a letter, but received no response. Dialed a phone number, and the call was not accepted. Dialed another number, but that phone number did not receive collect calls. A little part of me died. The hundreds of times I was forced to strip totally naked in front of a male prison guard, pull my genitals to the left, then to the right, and then turn around and bend over and cough while he looked up my anus.
All calls other than properly placed attorney calls may be monitored and recorded.
Another part of me died. Every single time I demanded to be treated with some semblance of humanity, and I was thrown into solitary confinement, a part of me died. Every time I spoke out or stood against injustice, and I was gassed, maced, pepper sprayed, or tasered, a part of me died. Every time I had a feeding tube shoved down my throat to force feed me during a nonviolent hunger strike, a part of me died. All of this begs the question, what is left of me? Mathematically, there are only so many parts to a whole, and with so many parts of me dying throughout 19 years of incarceration, one might very well ask, what is left? And I would answer, the most important part of me has never died, and that part is love. The love I have for my son, the love I've held for those I loved before I came to prison, the love I've hoped for, prayed for, and dreamed of experiencing every time my head hits the cold, hard bunk at night, the love for humanity that Dr. King dreamed of. For 19 years, my mind, body, and spirit have survived solely off the pure desire to feel and share love, similar to a vulnerable baby calf totally dependent upon his mother's milk. Love has given me the hope and strength to not only endure my toughest trials and tribulations, but to overcome them. Love has given me the hope and strength to visualize the possibilities of what lies beyond my present situation. The love in my heart radiates through the concrete walls and barbed wire gates surrounding me out into the world, where the world has boomerang love back to me. I have made new friends, discovered new love, and not only am I a loving, attentive father to my son, but I have a beautiful, intelligent stepdaughter who has given me the gift of her love. The greatest force in the world is the love that each of us has within us. The greatest service we can do for the world is sharing that love with a stranger. The greatest gift we can receive is the love of someone else. It is my dream of, hope for, and belief in this reciprocal love that has kept my spirit shining, my heart beating, and my hope alive while doing time. Love is why I have studied law and religion, why I have mentored and tutored other inmates and been a listening presence for those around me when they are in need. It is why I have spoken up against injustice and stayed in close touch with my son throughout his life and put his good above my own at all times. And love is why I have reached out to you today with this message. Love. Go give some. Thank you for listening to my words, and thank you for hearing my heart speaking.
The greatest force in the world is the love that each of us has within us. The greatest service we can do for the world is sharing that love with a stranger. The greatest gift we can receive is the love of someone else. That's Brad's conviction, and I share it. Though it took some time for Brad and me to trust each other, I am so grateful for the honest friendship that we now have. Brad is brilliant. He's compassionate, he's funny, he's so many things that white supremacy culture teaches people like me never to expect from somebody in his circumstances. We have offered each other mutual caring and support. He's shown me what being poor and black in America is like at its worst. And I do my best to answer his questions about life on the outside, and I help research topics and things he needs that he's not allowed to pursue from behind bars. He's taught me what years and years of engagement in anti-racism, anti-oppression work never could, including the stark realities of incarceration for a Black man. And I've learned to bear the horrific truth of this. I've learned to be a witness, to bear witness. Prison life in America is hell, my friends. It's set up not to rehabilitate, but to punish people's bodies, shred their selfhood, and destroy their very souls. Incarceration in America is steeped in racism, buried in white supremacy culture, and it's based on that Calvinist principle that only fear and punishment will keep us morally upright. And it doesn't work. It does not work. There are better systems in practically every other nation in the world, systems that are far less expensive in dollars and in human life, and that return far more people to society with a chance at new life. I believe Brad when he says that only love is the thing that has kept him alive, kept him going, kept his spirit shining through 19 years of incarceration, 19 years of deep injustice and losses he has suffered. He's not innocent. He knows that he committed a crime, and yet, what is the point of this punishment that reduces people to pulp? Truly, what else but love has the power to heal us, to lift us up, to keep us steady, and comfort us in the pain of pervasive pain and tragedy? Brad's story of love's perseverance is the most powerful love story I know. A story I'm glad I'm part of. A story I'll be part of as long as I live, along with Brad's wife and his son and his stepdaughter, along with my former congregation members Lynn and Mark, and with my beloved partner Tom. You know, Valentine's Day, which we're looking at through the rear view mirror, it's a good example of how American culture would have us buy and sell love, package it for profit, broker it for power. But love of every kind invites us to pull back the veil of culture and see what's really underneath. That at the center of life, love perseveres, the love that conquers hatred, the love that forgives trespass, the love that reaches out to a stranger, and the love in that stranger that reaches back to us. This love is always available to us. It accompanies us and empowers us through all of life's challenges. So when Brad the dad says, love, go give some, he's inviting us to live true to our universalist heritage, to step beyond safe love and let love's power move us toward change. Because love is always there through good times and bad, luring us forward, reminding us even our most deeply despairing moments that life has meaning. Love given and received reminds us that we matter. I hope that you too will take Brad the dad's message to heart. Don't wait for Robert Fulgham. He's not showing up in your coffee shop next week. Go out today and tell somebody your love story. Share Brad the dad's love story. Go out today and give love, my friends. Give love. Shalom. Blessed be. Ashe. And Amen.
Each week, we give our Sunday offering to an organization that aligns with our Unitarian Universalist values. I'm one of the co-leaders of our eco-justice team, and this week, we give our offering supports to the primary partner of our eco-justice team, Faith in Place. Faith in Place was first started by the congregation's former community minister, Reverend Claire Butterfield, and many invested members here. Today, Faith in Place has grown and works with more than 350 faith communities, empowering people of diverse faiths to be leaders in advancing environmental and racial justice, and providing resources to educate and advocate for the healthy, just, and sustainable communities for all. If you're sitting in the back rows, you'll find baskets under the pews. Please pass the baskets, and someone will bring them back to the main floor to collect the baskets. To support Faith in Place, please donate by sending a check to the Unity Temple office with Faith in Place in the memo line, by placing a check or cash in the circulating baskets, or by following the directions on the screen. Please note that your check or online donation must be received no later than Friday after this service to be given to Faith in Place. May what you give bring you joy. We'll sing our last song, Love Will Guide Us, in the gray hymnal, 131. Please stand as you're willing or able.
To join in the work for healing, calling us to ever increase peace, equity, and justice for all persons. Love is our response to this call, the love that will not be stopped by prison walls, poverty, fear of foolishness, differences in race, gender identity and expression, education, social status, or all that other stuff. We know the things that would divide us one from another. Love perseveres. Let us go forth this day and give some love. Shalom, blessed be, Ashe, and Amen.
Feel free to be seated. Please join me in the words of our chalice extinguishing. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
In French, we will sing Dirait on. It is a piece of music that one of our beloved departed congregants, Greg Ristow, had bought for us. And it's very special to us. And it says, Dirait on is, so they say, that the love within us that we develop, that's similar to Narcissus, is one that we can give away to each other. So they say, Dirait on.